This anime is probably one of the hardest series to talk about on YouTube because just one wrong step and YouTube will delete my entire channel because I am afraid of just clicking around throughout these episodes because the amount of blurred screens I gotta put on to be able to even talk about certain subjects is outright ridiculous. And these last two episodes have legitimately been just some of the most out of pocket stuff, like just some crazy stuff I never expected at all, even despite everything up to this very point, up to like this episode and all that. I never expected last week to give us an episode like a full-on Yuri romance scene. Like it just legitimately that actually blew my mind. And then this episode has this scene with our main female character Utena and how she just gets multiple stars and she straight up doesn't have a fight with the main villain, so to speak, but straight up it's a punishment. And it is just such a crazy episode. Honestly, the best episode of the series. Gonna keep it real. But one thing I want to talk about before I really just dive headfirst into this episode, because I know I've kept you guys waiting, I want to talk about last week's episode. Because last week's episode, like the episode that came out here, was actually just wild. Episode 10. And why I think this episode was legitimately wild is because for years, for decades even, people that probably have watched a lot of anime, they see that there's anime that comes out that it's very Yuri bait. For instance, it just, it has two cute girls in the story, and it's just Yuri bait, and that's about it. There's nothing that really happens between the characters. That's all that really goes on. And, people have asked for a more serious Yuri story for years, and there's been a few that have come out, to be honest. But, I never expected Gushing Over Magical Girls to just straight up not just have, let's say, a Yuri bait, show, but actually have two characters just going at it. Like, last episode, if you watched last episode, they went at it. And I was in such a state of shock. I was just like, how is this broadcasting live on TV in Japan? Now, I know Japan is very different. I know this. But it still astounds me because the series Gushing Over Magical Girls with this content, the uncensored content, is releasing in Japan and live on TV. And I'm just like, yo, that's kind of wild. That's legitimately wild, especially the scene that we got last week. And just any of those that are like constantly saying they want a Yuri show, I think this show kind of checks all the boxes. Anyways, with that being said, let's get into episode 11. So episode 11 is honestly just such a good episode because we get to see the full descent of Utena's character and just how she really is just really shaping up to be a high-quality villain. Because, as we all know, if you've made it this far, the story is following Utena's, just villain origin story. How she started off as, like, an admirer, a fan of magical girls, and has now been able to be given power to now be able to face off against the very magical girls that she admired and shape those magical girls into her ideal image. We get to see this character that was very shy and very, like, I guess, hands-off, didn't want to intervene or do anything, is now just so intertwined with the characters and so critical and has actually changed the landscape for magical girls. Like, for instance, what's going on with the main team and how they've been going through a training arc for all these episodes. It is thanks to Utena and what she has been doing to them. She has legitimately grown as an individual. Some could say not in a good way, but she has definitely kind of went from this very shy girl to this very more sadistic, open personality that we clearly see on display throughout this episode. And I like that. I like what the show is doing because one of the main core essence of what the show is, it is a parody of magical girl anime. That is 100% what it is. And the parody, in my honest opinion, has evolved from just being a parody. It has now become something even greater than what a parody is. And I think that it is self-aware of its genre, but it also is doing things that are fundamentally unique and different for the genre. I don't don't necessarily say that this is a complete deconstruction. Like, when I say deconstruction, I'm not saying that this is like Monica Magica, for instance. Like, if anyone has watched, let's say, Monica Magica, you know when that came out, when that series released, it opened a floodgate for all new forms of magical girl anime and manga. Anyone that were watching magical girl anime prior to Monica Magica were used to more Sailor Moon type like stories. I'm not saying Sailor Moon isn't dark. It does have some very dark elements in it. But it was never kind of to the same degree as Monica Magica showcased it, and a lot of anime and writers and stuff were inspired by it, and it kind of fundamentally changed the very landscape of what just magical girl anime was in general. And I don't think that, Gushing Over Magical Girls is necessarily going to be the same impactful as Monica, but I do think that in terms of the story and the unique, tropes and stuff it uses, it really is unique. It is honestly one of the best magical girl shows I have ever seen, and I'm not just saying this from a fan service perspective, I'm just saying in terms of actual writing, it's pretty freaking good. Like, this is a legitimately good series. Like, the story is incredible. I've been singing its praises for a very long time now, but I mean, I gotta reinstate that because, like, the development of Utena's character is just super freaking interesting. And I love the power system with the stars because it kind of taps into the emotions. And that's one of the big key things that this episode tries to show, is that you get stronger depending on your emotions towards certain things. And it shows just how you get more into I guess into your emotions, and you become more of yourself, who you really are, you will become stronger. In this case, Utena was a shy girl that was trying to shove aside her personality or what she really was. And as she has continued, she has eventually become more comfortable with what she's into and showcasing it. And in this case, that is why her power has grown within this episode. Is because she is able to get into her emotions and be who she wants to be without trying to hide it behind a mask, or so to speak. So I like that. I like the way the power system works. It's not necessarily the most thought-provoking power system, but it is a power system that works, and it fits in the universe of, let's say, a magical girl-like series. Now, with all that being said, I do want to talk about just some of the twists and reveals. I gotta be very delicate here, because one wrong look at an image and YouTube will delete my channel. So I'm gonna, click around, and if I blur screens or there's a jump cut, you know why. So anyways, let's take a look here. So basically, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a jump cut or blur here, but there is legitimately a scene. Gotta do more blurs here. Like, after this little scene here, this segment with, Lord Inormi? I don't know how to pronounce her name, forgive me. Well, there's this whole scene where she meets with this our mascot character, and we get the true extent of just how deranged this said character is, or just how they really are kind of the final villain. I think legitimately this is fascinating, because what this kind of scene showcases is that, Utena has a lot to worry about, because this entity, this mascot, is planning a lot, planning something really huge, which was to be expected. I mean, the very character came off as like a QB-like character. Anyone that knows that, that's from Monica Magica, and even Utena herself kind of mentioned that at the beginning of the show, kind of aware that a mascot usually that's trying to give you powers is not necessarily a good thing. There's usually a cost, so to speak. And it's clear that, there is a lot of mind games and stuff going on here, a lot of twists and turns, and just what happens here in this scene, honestly, took me by surprise. Because one thing that people might not realize is that the villain here, she has less stars. That's a big detail I want to point out. As Utena is literally punishing her, not fighting, she is losing stars. You will see it throughout the scene. She loses stars on her forehead. They just disappear, and it showcases that she's just weakening, because Utena is literally overpowering her. Now, you could say that, Utena is, absorbing her power, or maybe the mascot-like character is taking the power from her while Utena is doing that. Whatever the case may be, it does not change the fact that, she is definitely in a lot weaker state right here, and it is revealed that the mascot can give a lot more power than normal. For instance, give you so much power, in fact, where you could have 4 stars. And 4 stars is ridiculously powerful, according to what we have seen. So, when you factor all of that in, how much power is the mascot really holding back from giving someone? Like, could the creature give, 10 stars? There's a lot of questions I have, but the entity is definitely more powerful than it has been led to believe. Definitely a lot more stronger, and I don't even think Utena could potentially be able to beat the said creature. Now, one of the big things I do want to point out, though, is that this scene has her straight up get killed. Like, she's killed off. Like, the way the scene is implied and everything that happens here, she's straight up killed off by her own subordinate. And it's just like, okay, that's kind of dark. Like, I did not expect the series to take that turn. Now, obviously, she could be maybe still alive, but at the end of the day, this is a villain organization, so I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if, like, she just straight up was killed off and she's gone now from the story. It's a little bit surprising, honestly. So, just overall, Gushing Over Magical Girls has been excellent. I love Utena's transformation, by the way. Like, oh my goodness. Like, I absolutely love the way she actually is transformed here. It just, such a good freaking scene. She, it's scary. She is actually scary. I like how her new form, by the way, when she has these wings and everything and all that, like the hair, she looks more like an adult. Like, she looks fully adultish now, and, like, she's just like this, she looks very old now, like, much older than she did, and I think it kind of represents her matured personality as well. So, I don't know, I really like what this episode did, and Gushing Over Magical Girls honestly continues to be one of the best anime from this season, unironically. But I want to leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hopefully YouTube does have a problem. But with that, be safe, stay healthy. I love you guys. Chibi out.